A shy girl schedules a private surgery, but when she meets her millionaire young doctor, she wants. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story, where a shy girl's life is about to change forever when she meets a millionaire young doctor. But what happens next will leave her questioning everything she thought she knew about herself. Let's see how her journey begins. Emma Brooks had always lived a quiet life. A shy girl with big dreams, but small steps. She rarely ventured out of her comfort zone. Living in a small apartment in the heart of the city, she spent most of her days working as a waitress at a local diner. The job paid the bills, but it hardly fulfilled her desire to create something bigger, something meaningful. She dreamed of becoming an artist, opening her own art studio, but every time she looked at her empty sketchbook, the weight of her financial struggles seemed to drain her motivation. She didn't have the luxury of pursuing her passion. But today was different. Today, she had made the difficult decision to schedule a private surgery. It wasn't life-threatening, but it was something she had been putting off for far too long. A procedure that would hopefully improve her confidence. She had always felt self-conscious about her appearance, especially in her job, where she constantly interacted with customers. Emma knew she needed to take this step for herself, but the anxiety was overwhelming. As she stepped into the upscale clinic, the sterile environment felt foreign to her. The clean white walls, the soft hum of the air conditioning, and the smell of antiseptic made her feel like she didn't belong. She adjusted her second-hand dress, the only one she could afford for such an occasion, and took a deep breath. Table 7. Table 7. She muttered to herself, trying to focus on the task at hand. Emma walked past the sleek reception area, her eyes scanning the pristine surroundings, her heart pounding. With nerves, she finally spotted a man sitting alone at the far corner, engrossed in his phone. He looked out of place here too, but for reasons Emma couldn't pinpoint. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, his dark hair neatly styled, and his expression was both focused and distant. That must be him, she thought, remembering the name from the clinic's scheduling message. She walked towards him, her footsteps slow and deliberate. Her mind raced, trying to calm her nerves. She mustered the courage to approach him. "Hi, you must be Kevin. I'm Emma. Nice to meet you," she said, forcing a smile, though her hands were trembling. The man looked up, blinking in surprise. He was clearly taken aback. For a brief moment, he just stared at her, his gaze flicking from her to the phone in his hand. Hi, Emma," he replied, his voice low but not unkind. Emma misread the confusion in his eyes as shyness. She slid into the chair across from him, her hands fidgeting in her lap. "Oh, I know this is awkward. Blind dates are weird, right?" she said, laughing nervously. "Jenny told me you might be a little quiet, so don't worry. I can talk enough for both of us." The man paused, glancing at his phone again, then set it down. There was something about Emma's earnest smile, the way she seemed so out of place yet so genuine, that made him hesitate. He decided to play along. "Right," he said, his lips curving into a small smile. "Blind dates are something else." Emma laughed again, feeling her nerves start to settle. As the conversation continued, she shared her life as a waitress, her struggle to make ends meet, and her dream of opening an art studio one day. Her words flowed freely, something she had never done with someone she had just met. Liam, though still reserved, found himself intrigued by her honesty, by the way she seemed so authentic and unguarded. But the moment was short-lived. As Emma reached for her water glass, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced down at the message from her friend, Jenny. "Hey, Emma, where are you?" "I'm at table 7. Looking forward to meeting you, Kevin." Her heart sank. She looked up at the man across from her, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "You're not Kevin, are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. His smile faltered, a flicker of guilt crossing his features. "No, I'm not," he said softly. Emma's stomach churned with mortification. She stood up abruptly, her face burning with shame. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I sat at the wrong table," she muttered, scrambling for her coat. She couldn't get out of the restaurant fast enough, her heart racing. Liam watched her leave, a strange mixture of regret and curiosity swirling in his chest. She had thought he was someone else, but now, he couldn't shake the feeling that he wanted to see her again. He wondered why the thought of not seeing her again bothered him so much. Little did Emma know, this was only the beginning of a story that would change both their lives forever. The next day, Emma couldn't shake off the memory of her embarrassing mistake at the restaurant. The warmth of the cafe, the taste of the coffee she hadn't had a chance to finish, and the man's quiet presence still lingered in her mind. She'd been so nervous when she first sat down at what she thought was Kevin's table, and now she couldn't stop replaying the conversation they'd had. Right, blind dates or something else. She smiled faintly at the memory. Despite the awkwardness, there had been something nice about their talk. She'd opened up in a way she hadn't with many people. She hadn't meant to. Of course, she was just trying to fill the silence. But it was surprising how easy it had been to talk to him. What really bothered her, though, was how quickly she'd run off. Maybe she should have stayed a little longer. Maybe, she thought, she could have apologized properly. But what could she say? That she'd thought he was someone else? As she tried to push those thoughts aside, her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her musings. The message was from Jenny. Hey, girl, don't stress about last night. I bet Kevin thought it was cute. Besides, there's always next time. Don't let this thing keep you down. We've got more important stuff to think about. Emma let out a soft laugh. Jenny always knew what to say, but the last part of the message made her heart sink a little. Next time, she thought. Yeah, right. What was next for her? Her job at the diner felt like it was leading her nowhere, and her dreams of becoming an artist seemed so far out of reach. She had no idea how she would get from here to there. She sighed and tossed her phone on the bed. It had been a long time since she'd felt truly hopeful about her future. But later that afternoon, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a number she didn't recognize. Hesitant, she picked it up, unsure of who it could be. Hello, she answered, her voice barely above a whisper. Hello, Emma, a calm voice replied, sending a shiver down her spine. This is Liam Parker. We met last night. She froze. Liam? The man from the restaurant? Her heart started racing, but she kept her voice steady. Yeah, hi? I didn't expect you to call. I know, and I apologize for not explaining myself sooner, Liam said. I just wanted to check in and make sure you were okay after. Well, after I kind of messed things up last night. Emma felt her cheeks flush. I'm fine. Really, it's no big deal. Just a misunderstanding, right? Well, yes, but that's not why I'm calling, Liam continued. The thing is, I've been thinking a lot about our conversation. You mentioned wanting to open an art studio. I don't know if this is too forward, but I wanted to offer you an opportunity. I've been involved in some charity work, and we're looking for artists to collaborate with us on a new project. I think you'd be perfect for it. Emma was stunned. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be the same man she'd thought was just another tech guy sitting alone at a restaurant. Wait, what? You're offering me a job? She asked, trying to process the words. Not exactly a job, but an opportunity, Liam clarified. It's a chance to showcase your work and gain exposure, with the potential for a long-term partnership. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, we could meet up and discuss it further. Emma's mind was racing. Was this some sort of joke? I'm not sure what to say. I mean, this is all happening so fast. I get it, Liam replied gently. And I understand if you don't trust me, or if you think I'm being too forward. But I saw something in your work last night, Emma. There's talent there, and I want to help you get the recognition you deserve. I'll give you the time and space to think it over, but I'd really like to meet you and talk about it. Emma swallowed hard. She felt like she was dreaming. The man she had mistaken for someone else was offering her a chance of a lifetime. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than what he was letting on. Okay, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll think about it. And thank you for calling. You're welcome, Liam said, and she could hear the warmth in his voice. Take your time, Emma. I'll be in touch. As Emma hung up the phone, her thoughts were a blur. How had her life turned upside down in the span of a single conversation? She was just a girl from a small town, working at a diner, dreaming of something bigger, something better. Now, she had a real chance to turn that dream into a reality. But the nagging doubts wouldn't go away. Was this too good to be true? Was she really ready for an opportunity like this? She ran her fingers through her hair and took a deep breath. One thing was certain. She couldn't let this slip away. But as she stood up from the bed and looked out the window, something else struck her. What if Liam wasn't just offering her an opportunity to showcase her art? What if he was offering her something more? Something she hadn't even realized she needed. Later that evening, Emma found herself walking back to the diner after a long day. Her mind was still racing, but as she crossed the street, she spotted a familiar figure standing by the restaurant's entrance. Liam. He was dressed in his usual sharp suit, his gaze fixed on her as if he had been waiting for her. Emma's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to show up here, but he was standing there, right in front of her, as though he had been waiting for the right moment to make his next move. He smiled at her when he saw her approach. "I thought I might find you here," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "I hope I didn't catch you off guard." Emma stood frozen for a moment, unsure if her eyes were deceiving her. Liam Parker, the millionaire who had contacted her just hours ago, was standing right in front of the diner. His presence felt both unexpected and inevitable, as if fate had been guiding them together ever since their first meeting. He was still dressed in his sharp suit, his demeanor calm and collected, but there was something different about him now. It wasn't just his wealth or his power. It was the way he looked at her, as if he saw something in her that she couldn't yet see in herself. "I thought I might find you here," he said, his voice soft but confident. "I hope I didn't catch you off guard." Emma blinked, still trying to process what was happening. She had thought she'd have more time to think about the offer he'd given her, but here he was, standing in front of her like a storm she couldn't avoid. She opened her mouth to say something, but then closed it again, unsure of what to say. Instead, she gave a small, nervous smile. "I wasn't expecting to see you here," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I thought maybe we'd meet somewhere more formal." Liam chuckled softly, his smile warm and understanding. "I wanted to keep it casual," he said. "I figured this might be the best place to talk. Plus, I've heard a lot about this diner." Emma raised an eyebrow in surprise. "You've been here before?" "Not exactly," he admitted. "But I've heard enough to know that you work here. I thought it would be the right place for us to have a conversation, one without all the formality of my office or a fancy restaurant." His words were sincere, but they made Emma feel uneasy. She wasn't sure if he was trying to make her feel comfortable or if this was some sort of test. Still, she couldn't help but feel the pull of his kindness, the warmth of his presence that contrasted with the coldness of her usual world. She nodded slowly, gesturing for him to follow her inside. The diner was quiet that evening, with only a few regulars sitting at their usual spots. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed softly, adding to the calm, low-key atmosphere. Emma led Liam to a booth near the back, away from the others. As they sat down, she couldn't help but feel the weight of the situation. This wasn't just a casual conversation, it was the chance of a lifetime. He had offered her an opportunity, a way to break free from the life she had known. But now that he was here, sitting across from her, it all felt too overwhelming. "I know this might be a lot to take in," Liam said, breaking the silence. "But I really believe you have something special, Emma. I've seen your work, and I can't help but think that if you were given the right platform, you could go places. You could build something of your own." Emma felt a lump form in her throat. His words meant more to her than she could express, but they also scared her. "I don't know if I'm ready for something like this," she confessed, her voice shaking. "I've never had a chance like this before. I'm just a waitress. I'm not sure I can handle all of this." Liam leaned forward slightly, his eyes never leaving hers. "You're more than just a waitress, Emma. You're an artist. You're someone with dreams and ambitions, even if you don't always feel like they're within reach. But I'm offering you a chance to take that first step. You won't be doing it alone. I'll be here to help guide you." Emma swallowed hard, trying to process his words. She had always doubted herself, always felt like she was never enough to make her dreams come true. But now, with Liam's offer on the table, she had to ask herself, was she ready to take a risk? Was she ready to step into a future she had always dreamed of but never thought possible? She looked at Liam, her eyes searching for any sign of insincerity, but all she saw was honesty, kindness, and an unspoken promise. He wasn't just offering her a job. He was offering her a future, a chance to prove to herself that she was more than what she had settled for. "Okay," she said finally, her voice stronger than before. "I'll do it. I'll take the chance." Liam's face lit up with a genuine smile. "You won't regret it," he said, his voice full of conviction. "We'll start small, but I promise you, this is just the beginning." Emma felt a surge of emotion as she realized what this moment meant for her. It was the start of something new, something she had only dreamed about but never thought would actually happen. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was someone with a future, and maybe, just maybe, that future would be brighter than she had ever imagined. The days that followed felt like a whirlwind to Emma. She had agreed to Liam's offer, but the reality of it all began to sink in. She was no longer just a waitress at a diner, struggling to make ends meet. She was stepping into a world she had always dreamed about, one where her art could finally have a place, where she could show the world what she was capable of. But with this new chapter came a wave of anxiety. Could she really do this? Could she rise to the occasion? Liam kept in touch, offering her encouragement and support. He helped arrange for her to showcase some of her work at an upcoming charity event he was hosting, which was a huge step for her. The thought of standing in front of a crowd, showing her art to people who could judge her, made her stomach churn with nerves. Yet, there was something about Liam's confidence in her that pushed her forward. He believed in her, and that belief made her start to believe in herself, even if just a little. As the event drew closer, Emma spent hours preparing. She had taken Liam's advice to heart and worked harder than ever before. She spent late nights in her small apartment, sketching, painting, and trying to capture something that felt real. Her hands were stained with paint, but she didn't mind. It felt like the first time in a long while that she was doing something that truly mattered to her. But there were still moments of doubt. Every time she stepped back to look at her work, she questioned whether it was good enough. Was this what people wanted to see? Was she ready to showcase her heart and soul to the world? "You're doing great," Liam had said during one of their phone calls, his voice steady and reassuring. "Just keep trusting yourself. You've got this." His words stuck with her, echoing in her mind whenever the doubts crept in. Still, as the night of the event arrived, Emma found herself standing in front of the venue, her heart pounding in her chest. The building was beautiful, a grand ballroom lit with soft, golden lights. It looked nothing like the diner she had worked at. It was like stepping into a dream. "You ready?" Liam's voice came from behind her. She turned to see him standing there, looking every bit the successful businessman she had imagined him to be. But there was a kindness in his eyes that made him seem more like a friend than a mentor. "I don't know if I can do this," Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is way out of my comfort zone." Liam smiled, his expression soft. "You don't have to be perfect. Just be yourself. That's all you need to do." With a deep breath, Emma nodded and walked into the venue. The room was filled with people, all mingling, sipping champagne, and admiring the artwork displayed around the walls. She felt out of place at first, her nerves making her second-guess everything. But then she saw her paintings, her work, on the walls, and she stopped in her tracks. She had never seen her pieces displayed like this before, in such a professional setting. It was surreal. She hadn't realized just how much she had accomplished until now. The evening went by in a blur, with people complimenting her work, asking questions, and showing genuine interest in what she had created. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was enough. By the end of the night, Emma found herself standing in a quiet corner, away from the crowd, trying to process everything that had just happened. Liam appeared beside her, a glass of water in his hand. "How do you feel?" he asked, his tone casual, but there was an underlying warmth to it. Emma looked up at him, her chest swelling with emotion. "I feel proud," she said softly. "I didn't think I could do it, but I did." Liam smiled, his eyes bright with pride. "I knew you could." And in that moment, Emma realized that this wasn't just about art. It was about believing in herself, about taking a chance and trusting that she was worthy of something more. She had come so far, and for the first time in a long while, she could see the path ahead of her. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was hers to walk, and she wasn't alone. Liam had given her the opportunity, but it was her determination that would keep her going. And as she looked around at the people admiring her work, Emma knew that this was just the beginning. The following weeks were a whirlwind of new experiences for Emma. She had stepped into a world she never thought she would belong to, and every day brought something new, something challenging. But with every step forward, her confidence grew. Liam's support had been invaluable, but Emma began to realize that it was her own determination and hard work that had made the difference. She poured herself into her art, pushing herself to create more, to experiment with new techniques, and to take risks. For the first time in her life, She felt like she was truly living for herself. No longer confined to the small apartment she had been in, she moved into a brighter space, one that inspired her creativity. The change of environment was symbolic, a fresh start. The walls that had once felt like they were closing in were now filled with canvases, sketches, and colors. Emma had made a promise to herself. She wouldn't let fear dictate her future anymore. She would go after her dreams, no matter how uncertain or scary they seemed. Liam continued to be her mentor, offering guidance and encouragement, but it was clear that Emma was beginning to find her own rhythm. She no longer saw herself as the shy girl who stumbled into a restaurant and sat at the wrong table. She was an artist, a creator, someone worthy of success. But even with all the progress she had made, Emma couldn't ignore the growing feeling she had for Liam. They spent more time together as her career began to take off, attending events, discussing her future projects, and even grabbing dinner after long days at the studio. Liam was supportive, but there was always a professional distance between them. He never crossed the line between mentor and friend, and Emma was grateful for that. At least, that's what she kept telling herself. Yet, every time he smiled at her, or every time he gave her a look of pride after one of her pieces was showcased, she couldn't help but feel something more. It was confusing, but it was there. She had grown close to him in a way that felt impossible to ignore. The thought of confessing her feelings terrified her. What if it ruined everything? What if it made things awkward between them? But as time passed, Emma realized that she couldn't keep pretending that she didn't feel something. It wasn't just about admiration or gratitude, it was more than that. It was a connection, something deeper. One evening, after another successful event, Liam invited her to his penthouse to discuss her upcoming solo exhibition. The view from his apartment was breathtaking, the city lights sparkling like stars below them. As they sat on the balcony, sipping wine and talking about her plans, the conversation shifted. "You've come so far, Emma," Liam said, his voice sincere. "I'm really proud of you." His words made her heart race. She smiled softly, trying to keep her emotions in check. "Thank you," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "Liam, there's something I've been meaning to say." He looked at her, his expression unreadable. "What is it?" She hesitated, unsure if she should go on. Her hands were shaking slightly, but she clenched them into fists to steady herself. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything you've done for me, and, well, I feel like I owe you more than just gratitude. You've been a huge part of my journey, and I can't help but wonder if there's more to this." Liam didn't say anything at first. The silence between them grew thick, and Emma's anxiety grew with it. Maybe she had said too much. Maybe he didn't feel the same way. But then, Liam reached across the table and gently took her hand in his. "Emma," he began, his voice softer than usual, "I've been feeling the same way. I didn't want to complicate things, but I can't ignore it anymore either." Her heart skipped a beat. She looked up at him, her eyes searching for any sign of uncertainty, but all she saw was sincerity. "You mean, you feel the same?" she whispered, almost afraid to believe it. He nodded, his thumb brushing gently over her hand. "I've always admired your passion, your drive," he said. "But I also admire the person you are. You've brought something into my life that I didn't know I needed, and I think it's time we acknowledge that." Emma's breath caught in her throat. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. There was no hesitation in his voice, no uncertainty. This was real. And in that moment, she knew that everything had changed. She wasn't just an artist anymore. She wasn't just a woman chasing a dream. She was someone who had found her place in the world, someone who had the courage to open her heart. And the person she had always hoped would be there by her side was standing right in front of her, ready to take that leap with her. The days after their confession were nothing short of magical. Emma and Liam found themselves falling into a rhythm, a partnership built not only on trust and shared ambition, but also on something deeper, something they both knew they couldn't ignore. Their professional relationship seamlessly blended into something more personal, and yet, they both remained grounded in the reality of the work ahead. Emma's art continued to flourish. Her solo exhibition was drawing closer, and with Liam's guidance, she began to see her vision come to life. The event was being meticulously planned, and she could already feel the buzz of excitement around her work. People were starting to take notice, and Emma couldn't help but feel proud of how far she had come. But with every milestone came new challenges. She was no longer just an artist in a small studio. She was someone whose work was being talked about in galleries, whose name was being mentioned in art circles. The pressure mounted, but it didn't scare her the way it once might have. With Liam by her side, she knew she had the strength to face whatever came her way. They spent countless hours together, brainstorming ideas, fine-tuning the details of her exhibition, and discussing the future. In the quiet moments, away from the hustle of their work, they shared everything, their hopes, their fears, and everything in between. Liam, once the reserved businessman, had begun to open up more to Emma. He trusted her with parts of his life he had never shared with anyone, and she found herself cherishing every piece of his vulnerability. One evening, after a long day of preparing for the exhibition, Liam invited Emma to dinner at one of their favorite spots, a small, cozy Italian restaurant where they had shared their first meal together. The candlelight flickered softly as they sat across from each other, the quiet hum of the restaurant creating the perfect backdrop for a more intimate conversation. Emma looked at him, her heart still racing after everything they had been through. "Liam," she said softly, her voice full of emotion, "I never imagined my life could be like this. I mean, everything is changing so fast, and I don't know where I'd be without you. You've done so much for me." He reached across the table and took her hand, his touch gentle but firm. "You've done just as much for yourself, Emma," he replied. "You're the one who put in the work, who took the risks. All I did was give you a nudge in the right direction, but you're the one who made it happen." Emma smiled, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I don't know if I believe that," she said quietly. "I feel like I've just been following you, letting you lead me. But now I'm starting to realize that it's not just about following someone else's path. It's about finding my own and trusting that I can walk it." Liam's eyes softened as he squeezed her hand. "And I believe in you, Emma. I believe in your ability to do that, even if you don't see it yet." There was a brief silence as Emma took in his words. It was hard to explain, but she felt like everything was falling into place. She wasn't just the girl who had stumbled into a restaurant by accident. She was someone who had a future, someone with purpose, and someone who had the love and support of the most important person in her life. "I don't want to let you down," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want to mess this up." Liam smiled reassuringly, his voice soft, but full of certainty. "You won't mess it up, Emma. You've already proven to yourself that you're capable of more than you ever thought possible. And I'll be here, every step of the way, supporting you." Emma's heart swelled with emotion as she gazed at him. She had never felt more sure of anything in her life. This wasn't just about art, about success. It was about something far deeper. It was about trust, love, and the journey they would take together. The next few weeks passed in a blur of preparations, nerves, and excitement. The night of the exhibition finally arrived, and Emma stood in front of her work, surrounded by friends, critics, and strangers, all admiring the pieces she had poured her soul into. She could hardly believe it was real. Her art was being celebrated, and her name was being mentioned alongside some of the most respected artists in the industry. As the night wore on, Liam stood by her side, never far from her. He was her rock, the person who had been with her from the beginning, and she couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude for him. As the final moments of the exhibition approached, Liam leaned in close, his breath warm against her ear. "You did it," he whispered. "You've changed everything." Emma turned to look at him, her eyes filled with tears. "We did it," she corrected softly. "We did it together." And in that moment, she knew that this was just the beginning. There would be more challenges ahead, more moments of doubt, but they would face them together. Emma had found her place in the world, and with Liam by her side, she knew she could conquer anything. The weeks following the exhibition felt like a dream to Emma, but it wasn't without its challenges. Her art was gaining attention, and for the first time in her life, she was recognized as a serious artist. However, with the success came new pressures. She had to keep up with new projects, attend meetings, and balance the growing expectations of those who now saw her as a rising star in the art world. But through it all, one thing remained constant: Liam. He continued to stand by her side, offering guidance and support. But now, their relationship had taken on a new dimension. It wasn't just about business anymore. They were partners, in every sense of the word. Yet, with the shift in their dynamic came a feeling of unease that Emma couldn't shake. Despite the love and admiration they had for each other, a quiet tension lingered beneath the surface. She had always respected Liam's boundaries, understanding that their professional connection had to come first. But now, as their personal feelings for each other deepened, Emma couldn't ignore the growing fear that things might change between them. The thought of jeopardizing their relationship, both personal and professional, kept her up at night. One evening, as they sat in Liam's penthouse, surrounded by the soft glow of city lights, Emma decided it was time to address the elephant in the room. "Liam," she began, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty. "We need to talk." He looked up from his laptop, where he had been reviewing some of her upcoming projects, his brow furrowing in concern. "What's on your mind?" he asked, setting the laptop aside. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "I'm afraid," she admitted quietly. "I'm afraid that everything between us might change. That if we get too close, we'll lose what we've built together. I don't want to mess this up, Liam." There was a pause as Liam studied her, his expression unreadable. Emma could feel her heart pounding in her chest. She had said it, finally said it, but now that the words were out, she wasn't sure if she was ready for his response. After a moment, Liam stood up and walked over to her, his gaze softening. He cupped her face gently in his hands, lifting her chin so their eyes met. "Emma," he said, his voice calm and reassuring, "I understand your fears. I've had the same ones. But I don't want you to be afraid. We've come this far, and I'm not going to let anything ruin that. Not my feelings for you, not our work together. We've built something amazing, and I believe in it. I believe in us." His words were exactly what she needed to hear. The weight in her chest lifted as he continued to hold her gaze. "You don't have to be afraid of us changing," Liam added. "Change is inevitable, but that doesn't mean it's bad. We'll figure it out. Together." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was as if a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying had been lifted. She smiled, the tension melting away, and placed her hand on top of his. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know what I would do without you." Liam's smile was soft, but filled with affection. "You don't have to do anything alone," he replied. "I'm here, and I always will be." In that moment, Emma realized that her fears were natural, but they didn't have to control her. She had found something truly special with Liam. Not just a mentor, but a partner. They had faced so many challenges together already, and they would face many more. But they would do it side by side. As the evening wore on, Emma and Liam talked more about their future, their dreams, and what the next chapter would look like for both of them. They shared laughs, moments of vulnerability, and even some quiet silences, but there was a sense of peace between them. They knew there would be hard days ahead, but for the first time in a long while, Emma felt ready to face them, knowing that Liam was right there beside her. Their connection wasn't just about art or success. It was about trust, love, and a shared journey towards something more. And as the city lights flickered below them, Emma felt a sense of certainty that she hadn't known before. She wasn't just following a path. She was carving her own, with Liam by her side, every step of the way. The months that followed were filled with growth, both for Emma's career and her relationship with Liam. Emma had embraced her new role as a recognized artist, with her work featured in galleries across the city, and even securing a few exhibitions in neighboring states. Her name was becoming synonymous with raw, evocative art, and her studio was constantly buzzing with creative energy. Yet, as her art gained more recognition, she found herself grappling with a new set of challenges. The pressure to create more, to meet deadlines, and to continue impressing critics was starting to take its toll. She had been so focused on her career and her growing success that she had neglected her own well-being, often staying up late into the night, sacrificing sleep to finish her latest piece. Liam noticed the change in her. He had seen the spark in her eyes when she first started, the fire that drove her to create, but now it seemed dimmed by the exhaustion she carried. He knew she had been working hard, but he also saw the toll it was taking on her. One evening, as they sat together at his penthouse, Liam noticed the weariness in Emma's eyes. She had just finished a long day at the studio, and her shoulders were slumped as she sipped her wine, barely tasting it. "Emma," Liam said softly, his voice gentle but full of concern, "I can see you're burning out. You've come so far, but you need to take care of yourself too. You can't pour from an empty cup." Emma looked up at him, a small sigh escaping her lips. "I know," she said, her voice tired. "I just feel like if I don't keep pushing, it'll all come crashing down. I'm scared that if I stop, Everything I've worked for will be gone. Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. I understand the pressure, but you don't have to do this alone. We've built something incredible, but it's important to remember why you started this journey in the first place. To create, to express yourself. Don't lose that in the rush to succeed. Emma's eyes filled with emotion as she squeezed his hand, feeling the weight of his words. I don't want to lose it, she whispered. I just don't know how to slow down. I feel like there's always something more to do, something more to prove. Liam smiled gently, his thumb brushing over the back of her hand. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, Emma. You've already shown the world your talent. But now it's time to take a step back, breathe, and remember what you love about creating in the first place. You have the freedom to pace yourself. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, letting his words sink in. For the first time in a long while, she realized that she didn't have to be in constant motion. It was okay to take a break, to rest, and to allow herself the space to reflect. Over the next few weeks, Emma took Liam's advice to heart. She made time for herself, something she hadn't done in months. She started to explore new sources of inspiration outside of the pressure of deadlines, spending more time in nature, visiting museums, and even journaling her thoughts and emotions. The creative block that had weighed her down slowly began to lift. She rediscovered her passion for art, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Liam supported her every step of the way, never pressuring her to work harder, but always reminding her to stay true to herself and her creative process. As they spent more time together, their bond deepened. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was about building a life together, one where they could support each other through the ups and downs. Emma found herself more relaxed, more at peace with her choices, and more open to the future. One day, as they walked through the park, enjoying a rare moment of quiet, Liam turned to Emma and said, I've been thinking a lot about the future. About us, about everything we've built. Emma looked at him curiously, wondering what he meant. What are you thinking? She asked, her heart fluttering with anticipation. Liam smiled, his eyes softening as he took her hand in his. I want us to continue building this life together, Emma. I want to keep supporting you, keep sharing our dreams. But I also want to take the next step. I want you to be my partner, not just in art, but in life. Emma felt a rush of emotions as she processed his words. They had come so far together, and now, Liam was asking her to take the next step with him. It was everything she had ever hoped for, but now that the moment had arrived, she felt a mix of excitement and fear. Are you sure? She asked softly, looking up at him. Liam's expression was one of certainty and love. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, he said, his voice steady. I want to be with you, Emma. Not just for now, but for always. Emma smiled, her heart swelling with affection. I want that too, she said, her voice full of emotion. I want to build a life with you. As they walked hand in hand through the park, Emma realized that everything had come full circle. From the shy girl who never thought she could achieve her dreams to the woman standing here now, ready to embrace the future with the man she loved. She had found her place in the world, and with Liam by her side, she knew she could face anything that came her way. As time passed, Emma and Liam continued to build their lives together. The journey they had embarked on, both professionally and personally, was more fulfilling than either of them could have imagined. Emma's art had reached new heights, with her works now displayed in some of the most prestigious galleries across the country. She had become a beacon of inspiration for those who, like her, had once doubted their ability to pursue their dreams. But what made her happiest wasn't the recognition or the success. It was the life she had built alongside Liam. Together, they had created a foundation where both their careers and their love could thrive. They spent mornings in the studio, discussing new projects, and evenings together, enjoying each other's company, talking about everything and nothing at all. They had found a balance, a way to support each other while still pursuing their individual passions. Emma felt at peace with herself in a way she never had before. She had grown from a shy girl who once feared failure to a woman who understood the power of self-belief. With Liam's encouragement, she had learned to trust herself, to embrace her imperfections, and to move forward with confidence. As for Liam, he too had changed. His once solitary life had been filled with work and ambition, but now, it was filled with love, laughter, and the joy of sharing his life with Emma. He had always believed in success, but he had never truly understood the depth of happiness that came from building a life with someone who shared your dreams and challenges. One evening, as they sat in the quiet of their apartment, the city lights twinkling outside, Liam turned to Emma with a thoughtful look on his face. "You know," he said softly, "I never imagined that this would be my life, that I'd find someone who would change everything for me." Emma smiled, her heart swelling with affection. "I never imagined it either," she replied, her voice full of warmth. "But I'm glad it's us. I'm glad we're here together." The moment felt like a culmination of everything they had worked for, everything they had overcome. They had faced their fears, taken risks, and learned to trust each other completely. And now, they had found a love that was stronger than anything they had ever known. As they sat together, hand in hand, Emma couldn't help but think about how far she had come. From the days of feeling lost and uncertain, to now, standing beside the person who had always believed in her, the person who had helped her discover her true potential. It was a feeling she would never take for granted. Liam, too, had come to realize that love, more than anything, was the greatest achievement of all. It wasn't about the success or the accolades. It was about finding someone who made you feel whole, someone who brought out the best in you. And as they sat in the glow of the city lights, Emma and Liam knew that no matter what the future held, they had each other. Their love had been built on trust, respect, and a shared dream of something greater. And with that foundation, they knew they could face anything. As the night continued on, they spoke of their plans for the future, not just as individuals, but as partners in life. They talked about new projects, new adventures, and, most importantly, the life they would continue to build together. For Emma, this was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she was no longer afraid to chase her dreams, and one where she knew that no matter what happened, she would always have Liam by her side. It wasn't just a fairy tale or a fleeting moment of happiness. It was real, it was lasting, and it was their story. A story of two people who had found their way through the challenges, the fears, and the doubts, to discover a love that would carry them through the rest of their lives. And as Emma looked at Liam, her heart full of gratitude and love, she knew that this was only the beginning. The future was theirs to create, together,